Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 255 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined of course by former heavyweight world title challenger. It is of course Mr. Eddie Holmes. I'm playing.
Holmes? Don't you mean Ernie?
Of course, Eddie Chambers. Eddie, welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
Good, man. I'm good. I'm always good when talking to you. How about that? Nice flip, right?
Now I don't know what else to say. I'm always
screwed you up.
The feeling is mutual. But yeah, so it's going to be a regular type of show. We are going to start straight away with the review part. Then we're going to bring in our first guest, our sole guest, the undisputed welterweight female world champion Jessica McCaskill, and then after that interview is done, we'll begin part two with the news part of the show and the preview part of the show, and Eddie will wrap the show up with his very own Lockdown Knockdown. It returns this week, so yeah, exciting stuff. Let's, like I say, begin with the review part. We're going to start here with a card that took place I'm going to start in Germany. But just before we get into that, obviously it's the first show that we're bringing you in the month of September, which is a big month, on the BoxHard Podcast. It's when we started in 2015, so I think it was the back end of September 2015. So in a couple of weeks' time, it will be our 5-year anniversary, which is it's a milestone for us. But anyways, getting on to the interesting stuff. Germany, in Berlin, a place that that's where you boxed. That's where you boxed Povetkin, right? Yeah. So we're going to start there at the Havel Studios. A really good fight. It topped the bill. I said it on last week's show. I said it's a risky fight for the previously undefeated 9-0 Abbas Barao. Well, Abbas Barao was actually upset over 12 rounds, a split decision in favour there of Jack Kulkai, who's now 29-4. Jack Kulkai, he's always been a decent level fighter. Like I say, his biggest fights he has lost. I said it on last week's show. He's got losses to Derevianchenko, to Demetrius Andrade, to Maciej Sulecki. But, he's still a good fighter. And for Abbas Barao, it seemed to just be a step too far. Like I say, a split decision loss over 12 rounds. I think it was the first time No, I got that wrong. I thought it was the first time he'd gone 12 rounds, but no, it wasn't. He'd actually gone 12 rounds with Carlos Molina, friend of the show, in the past, the controversial one that night. But anyway, that's a setback there for Abbas Barao. And, I can't say I'm overly surprised, to be honest with you. Brilliant win there for Jack Kulkai. Moving out now to the Osceola Heritage Park in Florida, USA. Over here, just one fight to mention. Cassius Chaney, now 19-0. He boxed that guy with a whole heap of wins. Chauncey Welliver, who was 57-12 with 5 draws. Cassius Chaney did make somewhat of a statement and get him out of there in 4 rounds. So all the credit there to Cassius Chaney, friend of the show. Good guy, 19-0 now. Surely knocking on the door for a big fight. I need to see him stepped up. Moving out now to Germany once again. We're back the following evening, Saturday, August 29th. Marco Huck returned to the ring. A win for him, win number 42. He's got 5 losses and a draw. Unanimous decision over 10 rounds. A complete shutout on all cards against Dennis Lewandowski, who's now 13-5. Moving out now to the BT Sports studio in Stratford, London, United Kingdom, a Frank Warren show, of course. Let's start with Sonny Edwards, a good win for him, 15-0 now. It was a defence of his IBF International Super Flyweight title against the very tough and game Thomas Asomba. Thomas Asomba, a record of 10-5 going in. Not the prettiest record, not the prettiest of styles, but a very, very tough guy, way better than his record suggests. But, the style just was all wrong for him. Sonny Edwards was, just too good for him, really. Brilliant mover, Sonny Edwards, and that's the problem with Asomba. He likes it if you stand right in front of him, as do a lot of, guys, opponents, that are expected to lose. They like it if you stand right in front of them and give them a chance. Sonny was never going to do that. He's a dancer, and he made it easy, really, for himself, to be honest. So a win for him, unscathed. Anyway, good win for Sonny Edwards. On to the next one for him. Also on the bill, Sam Maxwell with a great win against Joe Hughes. Maxwell now 14-0. That one was for the WBO European Super Lightweight title. That's a brilliant win for Sammy Maxwell. I actually thought that he could even get upset by Joe Hughes, the former European champion, now 17-6 with a draw. But a unanimous decision over 10 in favour of Maxwell. I think since his kind of last few fights, that fight where he boxed that guy and the guy was showboating like hell, and then he stopped him in the final seconds of the fight. I had a little look. That guy was actually undefeated, so he wasn't as bad as I perhaps thought he was, that guy. I'd just never heard of him at the time. And Sammy Maxwell since then seems like he's come on leaps and bounds, so all credit to him. Brilliant win there. Real good win there, actually. I want to see him pushed on now, and quite exciting, his future. Also on the bill, Willie Hutchinson, friend of the show, now 12-0, a win there against Ben Thomas, who came in on late notice. He was TKO'd in one round, Ben Thomas, so a good win for Willie Hutchinson, obviously being kind of co-promoted by Frank Warren and co-promoted by Richard Schaefer's Ringstar Promotions. Also on the bill, the main attraction, I guess. In fact, before we get to that, another win, I almost missed it there, for heavyweight David Adelaide. He's now 3-0, a KO for him in round 3 against Phil Williams, who's 3-26 with a draw. But the main attraction, like I say, Daniel Dubois, now 15-0, a TKO for him in 2 rounds against former cruiserweight Ricardo Snyders, who's now 18-2. It was for the WBO International Heavyweight title. Snyders down 3 times in the first round. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were body shots. And he got hit again in the second, another body shot. The referee waved it off, did him a favour, I guess. I said it on last week's show, it's not going to go to round 3, it's a first or second round job, and I was right on that. No real kind of former cruiserweight, I don't think, can mess with Daniel Dubois. Another relatively easy win, very easy win, not the fights we want to see him in, and hopefully his next one will be a fight we want to see him in. They're talking about Joe Joyce and him getting it on. They've both had their easy kind of wins, their keep busy fight wins now during the pandemic. Let's get it on. They're trying to do it for October. They need a crowd. They're saying, well, I say Frank Warren's saying that it's not going to happen if there aren't crowds back by October, so doesn't look likely to happen, which is a bit of a kick in the shins, but it is what it is. It is what it is. He was a late replacement as well, Snyders. Off the back of that win, by the way, Daniel Dubois has been put into the number 2 position by the WBO. Obviously the champion, the heavyweight WBO champion, Anthony Joshua. Should he vacate the belt, by the way, which there are talks that he may do, because Alexander Usyk doesn't want to wait. He doesn't want to, wait for Fury Wilder 3 and then Joshua to beat Pulev. If he does, by the way, that's no foregone conclusion. And then he doesn't want to wait to see the big super fight, Fury Joshua, providing they both come through the next fights. He doesn't want to wait around. He doesn't care about a big British showdown. He just wants to become champion. So he's not stepping aside. He just wants a belt. And Joshua may have to vacate the WBO to basically keep him off his back, and if he does, then it will be Usyk, ranked number 1, against Daniel Dubois, now ranked number 2 for the vacant title. So things should get quite interesting for Daniel Dubois. Anyway, moving on from that card there, moving out now to the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, California, USA. An undercard fight between Alfredo Angulo. 26-7 going in. He was supposed to box Caleb Truax. Caleb Truax, for some reason, I'm not quite sure what it was, pulled out of the fight on fight week, I believe it was. In steps Vladimir Hernandez, a guy I'd never heard of, 11-4. And unbelievably, he pulls off the upset wide over 10 rounds. Vladimir Hernandez. So a win there against Alfredo Angulo. It just makes you think he really needs to retire. He's absolutely finished. He's been finished for years, to be honest, Alfredo Angulo. I don't want to see him again. If there's a guy jumping in with a record of 11-4 on fight week as a late replacement and he beats you that wide on points, it's over. Main event on that card, though, Erislandy Lara with a win. He'd been out the ring, I believe, for about a year. He successfully defended his WBA World Super Welterweight title against Greg Vendetti, who's now 22-4 with a draw. Didn't see the fight. It was also for the vacant IBO World title. Erislandy Lara now 27-3 with 3 draws. Moving out now to the bubble in the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. Pretty much the best fight, certainly, of the weekend. The undercard wasn't great for me in my eyes. I didn't think it was too great, but I'm going to move straight on to the main event. It ended with a majority decision over 12 rounds in favour of the champion, Jose Carlos Ramirez. 26-0 now, a defence of his WBC and WBO World Super Lightweight titles against a very, very tough Victor Postol, now 31-3. Again, the 3 losses have come to brilliant fighters. Actually, the 3 losses have come to guys that even now in 2020 are still undefeated. He's lost to Terence Crawford, still undefeated all these years later. He's lost to Josh Taylor, I think it was a couple years ago. Of course, he's still undefeated. He's the guy that holds the other 2 belts that Ramirez doesn't have, and now he loses here to Ramirez. So he is still, after all that, even up in age, I think he's mid-30s, he's still one of the very best 140 fighters in the world. And on my card, he did enough to win, by the way, Victor Postol. I'm going to fly through the 12 rounds here. The first round, it was a very close opener, to be completely honest. Postol, seemed to start well. Ramirez ended well. Mainly Postol's jab was kind of key in my eyes. Ramirez, he likes to throw his hooks. He's a bit of a hooker. To be honest, it was kind of like a 10-10 round for me, but if I had to give it to someone, it would go to Postol. The second round, an excellent round for Postol. Once again, displaying a fantastic jab, piercing type of jab. He varied them up as well, and he definitely got the better of the exchanges also when the pair would trade. Definitely a Postol round, very clear to see that. The third round, another really close round, could have gone either way, but I actually felt Postol just about edged it again on that jab, a brilliant jab. And many times throughout that round as well, he made Ramirez miss quite wildly. Round 4, another really close round. Maybe sympathetically, I gave it to Ramirez. Both men had little moments in there. Round 5, Postol had success multiple times with the straight 1-2, just the basic straight 1-2. Ramirez had no answer for it at times, and it was a brilliant round for Postol there. Moving into round 6, a better round for Ramirez. He was having some success with his right hand finally, and I felt he may have just stole the round in perhaps the last 30 seconds or so. Going into the second half of the fight, round 7, Ramirez rocked Postol with a punch that was somewhere in between kind of like a jab and a short hook. He fell short with the 2 shots he threw prior to that shot, but it wobbled Postol, and Postol did finish the round really well. I think Ramirez, may have just kind of grabbed the round again for that early work. Round 8, a great round for both men. The technique from Ramirez was messier. The tidier of the work was definitely done by Postol, but again, I think Ramirez might have just stole that round. And it's interesting because up to those first 8 rounds, I had the exact same scorecard as Judge Tim Cheatham. I had the exact same card through the first 8 rounds. I think also one of the other judges, can't remember who it was, we absolutely agreed on everything up to the first 8 rounds. And then after that, we seemed to disagree. And in Tim Cheatham's case, we absolutely disagree on everything from round 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I'll get onto that. Round 9, a very close round. I felt like Postol was winning the round. Then Ramirez, landed some nice shots in the last 20 or so seconds. It was such a close round. I actually gave it a 10-10 on my scorecard. So I had it all completely square going into the final 3 rounds. Round 10, a Postol round for sure. He started off really well. He did fade a little bit towards the end of the round. Ramirez did take advantage of it with some big, heavy shots, but I don't think it was enough to snatch the round. Round 11, a brilliant round for Postol. He got back to his boxing. Again, he found a lot of success with the straight 1-2 again and again. He barely got touched, actually, the whole round. We did see a little bit of holding as well, smart holding from Postol. Ramirez just did nothing though in that 11th round, which I find bizarre that I think either 2 or 3 of the judges gave that round to Ramirez, so it's very fishy for me. It was amazing again how good Postol's movement was that late on in a fight. Very, very fresh. He was bouncing around on the balls of his feet like it was the first round, and he's 36 years of age, like I said. Round 12, again, another round where many people felt Postol won, and I did as well. It was a close one, but Postol, for me, did enough to steal the round in the last 30 seconds, so I actually had it in the end. Like I say, all square going into the final 3 rounds, but I gave 10, 11, and 12 all to Postol. Al Bernstein was on Twitter afterwards, raging at the fact that, that the judges seem to score the last 3 or 4 rounds really badly, just like me. So I was kind of on the same page as Al. But, the scorecards were very, very strange, I just can't understand how you can give Ramirez the 11th round for sure, and not even the 12th round. It was clear to me. It was it was very strange the way the judges completely agreed with everything I saw, then totally disagreed with everything I saw after that. Very strange, but it is what it is. Moving on, brilliant fight, like I say, very thoroughly enjoyable. Moving out now to the final card to mention. This one took place at the Production Park Studios yesterday in Yorkshire, United Kingdom. Let's start with the undercut. Let's start with the main event, actually. A good win over 12 rounds unanimously for Akeem Ennis-Brown. Now 14-0. He is the Commonwealth and British super lightweight champion. Bowes was cut above the left eye in the 4th round. He had a point deducted in the 8th as well. Akeem Ennis-Brown also was cut on his eye in the 10th, but a good win there by about 3 to 4 kind of points. Over 12 rounds for Akeem Ennis-Brown. Real bright future, I believe he has. Also on the card, Dan Aziz. 12-0 now. It was the Battle of Lewisham, him against Andre Sterling. It was a TKO in the 9th round of a scheduled 10 there for the English light heavyweight title. The corner of Andre Sterling threw the towel in. He had quite a bad cut on his eye, some swelling as well, I believe it was, and he was also down, I think it was in the 6th round, somewhere around that point. The towel came in, so that's a brilliant win there for Dan Aziz. It really is. I actually tipped Andre Sterling to probably win that one. And also a very impressive win on the undercard for cousin of Chris Eubank Jr., Harlem Eubank. He's now double-figure wins, 10-0, a knockout win in the last round of an 8-rounder. So in round 8 against Martin McDonough, who's now 8-2. Martin McDonough, of course, was boasting all throughout the build-up that they had 2 fights in the amateurs. Martin McDonough won both of them, so he was really confident of beating him again in the pros, but it wasn't to be. And very impressive from Harlem Eubank, because he becomes the first man to stop Martin McDonough in his whole boxing career, and that's amateur and pro. No one's ever stopped him. Harlem did it, and it just goes to show once again that the pros really is a different game to the amateurs. Right, that's everything for the review part of the show. Just before we wrap up part one, the final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning undisputed women's welterweight world champion. It is, of course, Miss Jessica McCaskill. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's honestly my pleasure. It really is. So, Jessica, there's really nowhere else to start other than your huge win. It was just over 2 weeks ago now. Has it all sunk in yet? Does it feel real now?
I think the realest moments were the night of the fight and the win and being able to share that with my team, and everything just seemed like kind of upside down and backwards at the same time. It was really intense. And so now things have calmed down and I'm back in the gym and, ready to work and ready for the next step.
And just talk us through that fight, because obviously it was such a brilliant fight to watch on TV. It was full of action. Cecilia, of course, has been such a great champion in and out the ring. But the hunger that you have, and you bring it every time you fight, it's almost frightening. You went in there as the challenger. You pull off this remarkable, unforgettable upset. Just talk me through the fight.
Yeah, thanks. The game plan for us was to first see what their game plan was going to be, and we knew it was either going to be her jabbing a lot and staying on the bike and moving, or she was going to come straight at us. So the first minute, you see me kind of move and throw a couple punches myself and try to gauge what she's doing, and I realized she was coming towards me, and so I figured, okay, this is it, and we know exactly how this is going to go. So we just both went at it, and I figured that I would just have to apply my pressure, and since she was coming straight for me, I didn't have to go find her very often, and I just, pretty much just put my will on her. A lot of punches. They said I threw 230 punches more than she did. So, that output shows you exactly where I was going with it. I just wanted to take it, and I didn't let anything stop me.
And you've probably been asked this 1,000 times since the fight, but how sure or unsure were you when you were waiting, the anxious moments for the MC to read out the judges' scorecards?
Oh my gosh, that was like the longest 4 seconds of my entire life. It didn't help that the first judge, called it a draw. So of course that kind of throws your mindset a little bit. And I figured, okay, well, it's a majority decision and it has to be for me. And I just kept saying in my head and knew. And then when I heard it, oh my gosh, that was incredible.
And obviously a little bit of a silly question, but what does it kind of mean to you? Because, it's been very well documented that you've literally been at the lowest of lows in life in the past. Now you're pretty much on top of the world with this win.
Yeah, definitely on top of the world, and I feel like it is such a stamp on a lot of the things that we talk about and the things that we preach, where we talk about fighters having to be in the gym at all times and the consistency of your training and the things that you allow in your life and your focus and priorities. So to have that win, and that just kind of pushes everything that we've been teaching, even our own fighters that are in the gym, it pushes that, to the next level of reassurance that, what we were doing is the right thing to do, and that those are the steps to follow.
And of course, obviously, the fight was a close fight, it has to be said. I'm sure you respect Cecilia as well for not really kicking up a fuss or anything when she was announced, obviously, as the loser, when really she kind of had a right to feel like she won, but she was just, nothing short of, I guess, complimentary to yourself right after the fight.
Yeah, I mean, I know she's had such a tough time with, being away from her friends and family, and I think she was almost relieved. And even having such a long reign for such a long time, even having a loss can be relieving. So I think she was very much just happy that, we were both very respectable and professional in what we were doing. And, like she said before, there was never any bad blood. We just both wanted to do the best for boxing, for the sport. So, there was never any issues with Cecilia before, during, or after.
Yeah, and I think the pair of you just set an absolutely wonderful example for boxing, period. It's been nothing short of inspirational, especially for young women to see your development, though, your journey, your rise to the top. But boxing career-wise, I want to ask you this, Jess. Your loss to Katie Taylor, originally a little while ago now, you gave her a good fight. She got the decision. Looking back now, was that like a blessing in disguise? Because it seems like since then you've turned into this beast in the ring every time.
I think it's definitely been a blessing in disguise, not only for my career, but female boxing as a whole, because, I was coming onto the scene. Nobody knew who I was. And if Katie had lost that fight, female boxing might not have had the same kind of investment from Eddie Hearn, and the money might not have been there. And he might have thought, well, Katie's a fluke and she lost, and now what am I going to do? And so he might not have put that much money into female boxing, and it might not have been on the rise as it is now. I mean, August, we had, 4 major female fights that really kept the fanship going for boxing altogether. So, it was a blessing in disguise, and I learned from every fight that I have, whether it's a win or a loss. So you just have to take it on the chin and keep grinding.
Like I mentioned, it was your first fight at welterweight, and you pull off, a win against one of the best women boxers of all time. A lot of people, though, before the fight, of course, were overlooking yourself and even Delphine Persoon. We thought we'd probably get to see Katie Taylor against Cecilia in this kind of Super 4 tournament that's going on. I know you wanted Taylor to win her fight against Persoon so you could get the rematch with her. 2 kind of questions in one here. Do you think she deserved the decision when she boxed Persoon in the rematch, and when will we get to see that now hotly anticipated rematch between you both?
I feel like both of the Katie Taylor, Delphine Persoon fights were very close. I feel like the New York fight was a lot closer. Delphine just seemed to really land a lot of her shots in the New York fight, and the first one, and you could really tell just from how bad Katie got beat up from that. This one, she came out a little bit more cleaner, and even though I feel like I don't know what the punch count was, they usually don't do punch counts for female fights, unfortunately. But I know Delphine was throwing a lot of combinations, and Katie was throwing maybe 1 or 2 shots from the highlights that I saw. So, I know it was close, and it takes a lot to take it from the champion. So, they deemed Katie the winner, and that's what we'll go.
And again, you mentioned you're back in the gym already. Is that the next fight for you, or is it not 100% locked in just now?
I think because everything has just happened and we're still so close to what we've just accomplished, there's still a lot of conversation going. Nothing is officially locked in. Cecilia has a little bit more time to decide whether she's going to invoke the rematch clause or not. Best thing for our business, I would say, since Katie has momentum and I have the momentum, is to go ahead and get the McCaskill Taylor 2 rematch out. And then Cecilia, whether she wants to fight the winner or the loser, she gives herself a couple more fights, whether it'd be me or Katie first. But if she fights me again through a rematch and she loses or gets knocked out, nobody's going to want to see her fight again after that. So it would buy her a little bit more time, a few more fights, a little bit more money if she were to wait out the rematch until after we get the Katie and myself rematch going first.
So again, like we say, you're back in the gym. It's kind of out of, I guess, your control entirely when your next fight will be, just this early on. But when ideally would you be ready to box next? When will we get to see you, hopefully, if all goes to plan?
I would love either a December or January fight. I think that's ample enough time for Katie and I to be ready for that. She fought only a week after I did, so I would feel very confident in a December or January fight.
And it is looking like it's either going to be at this stage a Braekhus rematch or straight with Taylor. So it's going to be a big fight next, it seems, for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we really have to continue on this kind of uphill momentum that we've created, and so it's going to have to be a big name. It's going to have to be somebody that has belts. It's always the biggest fight of my life. There's never any tune-ups, as they call it. So I don't think I'll get any tune-ups anytime soon. We'll see.
No, but just coming down to the last couple questions here, Jess. I want to ask you, I know you're on Twitter. Just for anyone that's listening now that wants to jump on this bandwagon if they haven't already, where can people follow you on social media? Twitter, Instagram, where can they follow you?
First name, last name, Jessica McCaskill, and that's going to be on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always search hashtag Team McCaskill, and everything should come up.
Excellent. And I want to just give you a chance here, just if you've got any closing words just before we wrap it up, perhaps to your UK supporters, because like I say, everyone kind of knew who you were, obviously, for the first Taylor fight. Since then, everyone that's been paying attention is just amazed and blown away with how much you've come on since then. You're sitting here now, welterweight undisputed champion. What's your message to your supporters over here?
Oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for all of the supporters, all of the love that we got going to and coming from the Katie fight. All of the DMs that I get on Instagram and in my message box and Facebook, and there's people that have been requesting autograph photos. So if you want one, all you have to do is hit me up on social media and send me your information, and I'll make sure to send one out, and I appreciate it. Make sure you make some noise for the McCaskill-Taylor too, whether you're a Katie fan or a McCaskill fan or just a boxing fan altogether.
Oh, well said, absolutely, and everyone should. That is a fight we all want to see. But listen, Jessica, I just want to say it's been an absolute honour speaking with you this week. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you finally get the recognition that you deserve now, because sometimes in the past, in my eyes, you haven't gotten the credit that you're due. You really are one of the true inspirations in not just women's boxing, but boxing period, and I look forward to the next time we speak.
Thank you so much. Hopefully that's soon, and take care. Thanks for having me.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to try and fly through this as quick as possible here. We're going to start with a card that Frank Warren has announced for October the 10th. It will feature Anthony Kakachi defending his British super featherweight title against Leon Woodstock. That's a good fight. I reached out to Leon Woodstock for an interview in the build-up to this, but he politely declined me, which isn't the first time he's done that, to be honest. But all the best to him anyway. He's definitely the underdog in that fight there. Brilliant fight as well between oh gosh, what's his name again? Jack Flatley and JJ Metcalf. That's a real good fight there. That one's for the Commonwealth Super Welterweight title. And top of that bill, he's ranked, I think, number 1 or whatever, number 2 in the WBO middleweight world rankings. He's mandatory. Yeah, of course he's number 1. He's mandatory for Demetrius Andrade. But he is boxing and defending his British middleweight title against Andrew Robinson, who's quite a tough guy, but only to a certain level, Williams will win that even if he had both arms tied behind his back, and that's no disrespect to Andrew Robinson, but Liam Williams is a real special talent. Also, it's been announced that September 26th, again, Josh Taylor will fight his mandatory. Forgot his first name, but his surname is Konsong. I'm not sure if we mentioned this. I don't think we mentioned it on last week's show, this. But also on the undercard, Charlie Edwards returns to the ring. His first fight under Frank Warren, and he takes on a guy by the name of Kyle Williams, who has a record of 11-2. He's not that bad, actually, Kyle Williams. I mean, he shouldn't be able to, to beat Charlie by any stretch, but he's not actually as bad as his record looks. If you have a look, he's not a bad fighter. In other news, we get to see, where's it gone now? A September 19th showdown between Jose Pedraza and Javier Molina. That one to be streamed at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, the Bubble. That one's going to be on ESPN Plus. And the other piece of news, the final piece of news, is that the MTK show that that was on yesterday that we mentioned in the review part of the show, well, they have now announced the semi-finals for their tournament. I think it's the light heavyweight tournament. So we're going to get to see Liam Conroy in the semi-finals, and he takes on Serge Michel. That's the guy with a record of 10-1. He of course beat Tommy Philbin in the quarterfinals of this tournament, and the other fight is obviously between Jose Burton. He has to go to Latvia to take on the Latvian, Ricards Bolotniks. That's the guy who caused a real big upset. I can't remember who he beat as well. It's really unprofessional of me, but Ricards Bolotniks, that one takes place in Latvia. He was the guy that knocked out Stephen Ward. That was it in the quarterfinals. So that's quite a juicy couple fights there. Not long to wait as well for those as well. They're I think happening in about 3 weeks' time, something like that. So real exciting stuff. That's it though for the news. If there is any further news developments throughout the recording of this show, I'll speak about them at the very end. Getting on to the preview part of the show, not too much to go over, just 3 cards really. This one takes place on Saturday at the Production Park Studios in South Kirkby, Yorkshire. It is going to be on Channel 5. Mick Hennessy, top of the bill for the EBU European Super Featherweight title. Samir Ziani, 31-3 with a draw, takes on Alex Dilmagani, 19-1 with a draw. Young Irish prospect Stephen McKenna, 4-0. He's in a 6-rounder, no opponent just yet. Mick Hennessy Jr., he's out again, 4-0 with a draw. He takes on Jamie Stewart, who's 1-0. And return to the ring, he was, I think, boxing last week or the week before. Isaac Chamberlain, he's coming off that 2-year layoff, and now he's having 2 fights in 2 weeks or whatever. He's 11-1, no opponent just yet. I want to see him back active. Moving to the fight that takes place at the Bubble, the MGM Grand, Las Vegas, Nevada. This is this Saturday, of course. On the undercard, friend of the show, we had him on last week, the heavyweight prospect, 5-0, 5 KOs, Jared Anderson. He takes on Rodney Hernandez, a guy that's been around the block, 13-9 with 2 draws, Hernandez. Also on that bill, we get to see Steven Nelson, 16-0, undefeated prospect in a 10-rounder against DeAndre Ware, who's a good fighter, 13-2 with 2 draws. That's a brilliant fight there. I like Steven Nelson's entrances. He likes to come out to the most craziest, the craziest stuff. He's come out dressed as the Grinch before, and many other crazy kind of film or movie type stuff, these characters in movies, stuff like that. But the top of the bill, everyone loves him, Jamel Herring, 21-2, defending his WBO World Super Featherweight title against Jonathan Oquendo, who's 31-6, obviously a 12-rounder. This is the 3rd time that this fight was supposed to have took place. Finally, both men have passed a COVID-19 test, and the fight will take place. All the best to Jamel Herring. We'll probably have him on next week's show. One of the absolute best guys in boxing. And the final card to mention takes place on Sunday, the 6th of September. So this Sunday at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles, California. Not much really going on the undercard, apart from a good fight between Batir Akhmedov. His record 7-1. He's the guy that pushed Mario Barrios real close in that fight, where Barrios scored a knockdown pretty much to clinch the fight. It was a brilliant fight. He takes on Ray Perez, who's 24-11 over 10 rounds. And the main event for the vacant WBA World Welterweight title, Yordenis Ugas, 25-4 in fight number 30 for him against Abel Ramos, 26-3 with 2 draws. Good fight there over 12 rounds, like I say, for the vacant WBA Welterweight crown. That is it though for the reviewing. We did that in part 1. We brought you the sole guest. I've done the news. I've done the previewing. I tried to whiz through it as quick as possible. But there is one more segment. It returns. Eddie, the Lockdown Knockdown. I think we know where we are. The Nigerian Nightmare, a win that you had against the former WPC world champion at the time, Mr. Samuel Peter. Where are we going to start here, Eddie?
Yeah, I was just coming off the last fight, man, which was with Big Cece Salif, who's actually another African guy. So, that I'm fighting 2 African guys in a row. Kind of weird. But anyway, coming off, and the craziest part about this, and this kind of goes into the business aspect of the boxing, was I wasn't even sure who my next opponent was going to be. If I'm not mistaken, I think the fight with Cece was in December of the year previous. My fight with Samuel Peter was in March 27th, 2 days before my birthday. I think it was 2 days before my 27th birthday, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember not really knowing who I was going to fight or if I was going to fight, when I was going to fight. We were just kind of like going over things. They kept relaying information to me saying, hey, you're going to be fighting soon. We're trying to get this opponent, that opponent. We're looking at a big one and all this and that. Now, keep in mind, since the previous fight I had, I mean, I was training, but not really much. I was kind of relaxing. I didn't really think anything was coming right down the pipe really quick. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, kind of enjoy myself, take some time off. Had a girlfriend at the time and we hung out a lot, and all I was doing, honestly, was eating crap. And this was before I made the decision to really, really focus on being in the best shape possible and being an actual athlete, with diet and everything, not just the aspect of throwing punches and being in the gym and training and stuff when it was time to, but living the lifestyle more so then. There had been periods in my career where I had kind of, just kind of like sailed off and let it, and just let that part of it go and wasn't really worried about how much I weighed. And, I never got too heavy, to the point where it was like, oh, what is going on? But I had gotten bigger than I needed to be. And for me, being close to 230 pounds at that time was like, wow, that's way too heavy. I mean, I had never really approached that up at that point. And I get on the scale and I was 237 pounds. And I was looking like, damn, I weighed that much. And I realized, when I got on the scale, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to start doing something before they end up telling me I have a fight. And then I don't want to make this whole camp about, just losing as much fat as I possibly can or just losing as much weight. I want to make sure that I'm actually, kind of fight ready even beforehand. But of course, nobody said anything, so I had no clue. So I'm sitting around just kind of, and then, just, it wasn't depression or anything. I wasn't depressed, like I wasn't going to get a big fight, but I just didn't know anything. And I feel like I can relax. I had that last fight. I won it pretty easily. It just didn't seem like anything was coming up, and nothing big was going to be coming up soon. So I kind of relaxed a little. And I guess I didn't pay for it because I ended up winning the fight. But when I look back on it, it would have been nice to do kind of what I did in previous times and just stay around the gym and spar and train regular and do the things that got me to where I was in that position. But this was also a important time in my career, because when we had and this is where I want to speak about the business and how sometimes, and I'm not going to say any names or say any people or anything like that, but sometimes when you're in this particular sport, things happen without your knowledge. And it should never be that way. You should know everything that's gonna happen with your career, because you're the one getting in there. And if there's something being set up, if there's a plan, if there's anything going on in your career, that it should involve you. You know what I mean? I get it that, the fighter's job is to fight. We know that. That's what's been said and all that for years. But the problem with that is, if it's just your job to fight, what about what you're doing? You're getting in there, you're risking your life. You're putting yourself on the line every single time you get in there, not just in the ring. We're talking about in sparring too. And these people a lot of times will make deals, without your knowledge. Now, not all of them are deals that you don't benefit from, but some of these deals are made, and they're made for the benefit of the people who are making them. And if you're not there, you can't speak for yourself. You understand what I'm saying? And you can't even see who the opponent is going to be to, give your 2 cents about the dangers of, dealing with this guy or being in this position. So I really think it's important for fighters, whatever fighters may be listening, is to try to be involved as much as you can, at least in certain aspects of your business. When it comes time for you to focus on the fight, just make sure all your ducks are in a row before you get involved in camp, and everything is set up the way you like it, to your liking, to your comfort level, before things go any further. Because the problem with a lot of the fights I've had going into, the big times in my career, I was kind of in the dark about a lot of things. And I just don't think that, person being, I'm not a stupid guy. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to say I'm the smartest guy in the world, but I'm damn sure not a stupid guy. And I knew things were going on. I knew there was a lot of stuff going on, but I trusted the people that were in position. So I kind of just allowed things to take their natural course, which I thought was the natural course. And, I learned quickly, really quick within those times that you can't allow people to make deals and talk about what's going to happen with your career without your knowledge. It just should never happen. So, in the preparation of this whole thing, I'm watching and, we watch fights because I'm in the height of my career. About this time is when I really started to approach it. And I'm watching an episode of, I think it was Friday Night Fights, ESPN. And they had made an announcement on ESPN and they had mentioned we were going to, at the end of the card, because they weren't sure, I guess, they were making the deal even at that moment. And I don't even know if they weren't 100% sure of, whether they could announce it right, at that point. But they had went to commercial, and I remember saying, we got an important announcement to make, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be right here on ESPN. It was a big fight. Once we, get the okay, we're going to make the announcement. So, there's cards going on. I'm watching. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. Like, what's this announcement, man? I want to know what's going to happen. And, I'm like, dang, this is a big fight. And I think they said heavyweight. I wonder who it's going to be, man. I got to pay attention because I may be fighting one of these guys. They come back after the break. It's the craziest thing ever. And the funniest thing before I get to the meat, to somewhat the meat of this thing, I had a conversation with my manager a little bit before this, and it was like I think before the fight card started, and he was saying, man, we're gonna try to work. We got something we're working on, and I can't tell you right now, but we working on this. And I'm sitting there thinking, and this is why I said what I said just a little while ago by saying you shouldn't be involved in your business, not letting a guy or any particular person, I don't care who it is, even if it's your wife, making deals with, someone else without your knowledge. It just shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? You should be involved in it. But he told me that, and, at this time I'm green, and I'm still green, as a pool table. Square as a pool table, twice as green. So I'm still kind of like letting things just go ahead, let them do what their job is supposed to be. But so so after I talked to him, I start watching the show, then I hear that statement. Then they come back after the break, and Joe Tessitore says, we got a huge, huge fight coming to ESPN, and just 3 to 4 weeks we'll have Samuel Peter, the one fight ago, former heavyweight champion of the world, that just lost his title to Vitaly Klitschko, and he's going to be fighting Fast Eddie Chambers, top level contender who has only lost and I'm sitting there watching this show, and I said, what? Like what? Like what? Like, how could you not tell me that I'm about to fight this guy who just was a world champion one fight before it, like literally a year ago, maybe a little less than a calendar year ago? This guy was the champion, the world freaking champion. And you're not going to tell me that I'm about to fight him in less than 4 weeks.
That's crazy, man.
Like that, you see what I'm talking about? Like, these are the type of things that have to be, they just have to be paid attention. Like, you have to see these things. You have to know that these are the kind of things that cannot go. You cannot let them go unnoticed. Like, you can't just say, okay, I trust my guys, which I did, and it's okay to trust your people. And nobody says you don't trust them when you're asking questions, but you have to ask questions. There's a great comedian who died a little while ago, man, by the name of George Carlin. And I was always watch his sets because he's one of the greatest. I love watching him, or listening to him, watching him, whatever. And he said one thing, and it was so profound, and it's like it really makes sense. Like, kids and just people in general, but they say a lot of times with kids, they're just never taught to question anything. You know what I mean? Authority figures don't want you to question, because if you question, then it's like, well, they can't enforce certain things because they can't teach you to question it, because then they're authority figures. They can't teach you that, because then you'll question them, right? So the things that are happening with some of these people, and when you're a young guy and these guys are older, and they have business, they've been in business for a long time, or they've been in the boxing business for a long time. We already know that's a dirty game, and you growing up in this game, you're never really taught to question anything. You know what I mean? Nobody's ever told me I need to really ask somebody about what this contract is about, or I need to have a lawyer look over my contract, or I need to really have my accountant, looking over the numbers and making sure things really match up in my favor, not my manager or my promoter or anyone's favor. I never knew these things. I mean, I kind of knew them because, you have little conversations with other fighters every now and again, but nothing really gets to you like you really, really wanted to. And nobody ever is really, really 100% honest, especially when you're kind of held under that umbrella. So nobody really can tell you what's going on. You know what I mean? So when I had those conversations, I really didn't pay attention much, and I'm trusting my guys 100%. So I didn't really think anything of it. But when this type of thing happened, it should have been the red flag of the century. And it should have told me, okay, no, I can't allow these types of things to happen. I need to know who I'm fighting. I need to know how many rounds it is. I need to know if they're in shape. I need to know what time they wake up, where their camp is. I need to know all these things. It can't be nothing. I need to know what the person's going to be if they're even thinking about setting the fight up. That's what needs to happen. Fighters need to know what's going on. I get, nobody really wants to listen to a fighter because what are they? Just fighters. They don't know anything, right? Well, the idea of that is fine. You could say that, you could think that, or whatever. But the reality of it is, they still should know what you're doing. If you really want them to trust you, if you really want them to be able to put their complete trust in you, you're going to have to be as honest as you should be in any situation. You know what I mean? With a fighter. And I think it's been lost in this sport for a long period of time. And I think when I look at guys like Floyd Mayweather, who's running his own thing, I'm just hoping more people can do that. But all this time, I don't say all this time, but this little, and then it's not a lot of time that I have to prepare for a fight. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just finding out that I'm about to fight this guy who's, one of the most dangerous fighters in the world. You know what I mean? And one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division, maybe even heavyweight history. Who knows? And it's like, damn, you didn't even tell me this. You just going to let me just run in there and whatever. You know what I mean? Oh, you'll know about it in time when we setting the deal up. And it's like, damn, do you even care what happens? These are things that are going through my mind, and it's frustrating when you don't know. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so after that happens, they announce the fight. They bring us out for a press conference to announce the fight and everything. And Sam did look huge. He looked like he was a good 320 when he came to the thing, and I wasn't too small myself, but I was about like I said, about 235, 236, something like that. I lost maybe a couple pounds because I started to go to the gym and I realized what was going to happen. But and this is when I had another real serious and good conversation, with my manager and a few other people that were there, and one of the guys who was one of the PR guys for Goosen Tudor. Really good guy, man. Really good guy. I've been knowing him for a long time, and he's always kept it real with me. And I don't think he works with Dan anymore. Well, he doesn't work for Goosen Tudor anymore. Dan has passed. So, but he came and we were all having this conversation, and I really remember him in the conversation as much more than even anyone else. And just saying, look, man, you got the rest of your life to sit around and do nothing. Damn it! You know what? I can't really. It really escapes me, and I feel terrible that I can't remember his name right now. But I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look it up, and I'm gonna bring it up on either another show or if I can find it on here. But he's my man for a long time, but I haven't talked to him in so long, and I literally, I got a boxer's brain right now, and I can't remember anything. So that's why I can't remember his name at this moment. But he knows who he is.
Yeah, no, that happens to a lot of us, Donald Trump as well. But carry on.
Yeah, Ernie Holmes too, But anyway, so and I'll never forget Ernie Holmes, by the way. But he, he said it amongst others. But I remember him really saying it, like, look, man, you got your whole life to enjoy it, and hang out with your girlfriend and do things that will be fun. Get married and do all of that stuff later on, and or focus on, because I love basketball. Everybody knew that even up to that point. You could go play basketball as much as you want, but you sell out all of those things and not worry and not pay attention and just give your life to this business hardcore for the next 2, maybe 3 years, and you never know. You may never ever have to lift a finger again. And these conversations, these kind of things, when you talk to people you respect and that never show to have any hidden agenda, with guiding you and giving you powerful words and information that really helps you make a real good decision, or at least a better decision than I was making. But I really appreciated it, and I really listened to it. And and I try to listen to it as much as I can during this camp. But remember, I said I had a little less than 4 weeks to really prepare, so it was about 3.5 weeks, and we decided to do camp in Cali because we were fighting at the Nokia Theater in LA. So we just went ahead and said we're going to just do the camp in LA. So we flew out there immediately and got right to where I think I spent maybe another like 4 or 5 days training with my guys, my strength and conditioning guy, Hassan Watler, for about another maybe week. And he gave me the not a week, but less than a week. Obviously, we had 3 weeks when I got out to Cali. But he gave me the plan and everything, strength and conditioning wise, for me to do when I'm out there. So we go to camp. Now, when I went to camp out in Cali, we had some nice stuff. Everything was set up pretty good. You know what I mean? It was a good, proper camp, even though it was kind of late and kind of rushed again. But it wasn't as bad as the Alexander Povetkin camp. You know what I mean? It was a lot better, and we actually had. We had good sparring for the Povetkin camp as well, but we had really, really good. So we had almost the perfect guy to kind of give us like a Sam Peter feel, but with better skills. You know what I mean? And his name is, and a lot of people know about him, but his name was Javier Mora. And man, he could punch. He was aggressive, and he could box a little bit. He wasn't able to box to the, to level I could, and I controlled the work 98% of the time. But I remember getting hit a couple times in there when this guy was hitting me, and he was on me and hurt me. I don't want to say hurt me, like it wasn't visible to where I was wobbling or anything, but like I knew that if I took a couple of shots off of that, I might not be standing, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And not many people have gotten me in that position, obviously. So, I really respected what he did, and he was on me the entire camp. Now, progressively through the camp, I gotten better, obviously, with what was going on. And I gotten better to the point where I was getting really, really sharp and almost too sharp, for him at that point. He's just training, he's training only to help me. So he's not training for a fight himself. But, and once you start getting into that fight mode and fight ready, you start seeing things differently. So that was what was happening. And he even apologized a couple times. Yeah, man, I'm trying, man, but it's just hard to keep pace. And and I'm like, man, why are you apologizing? You getting me right for this guy. I'm gonna be really, really right when it comes to getting in the ring with this guy. You know what I mean? I can't imagine getting better sparring or better preparation. And that was only one guy. Now I think I had other guys, but I don't even remember him. So that tells you how good at sparring he was. You know what I'm saying? I don't even remember who else was in my camp. All I remember was Javier. And he was a really, really, really good guy, too. So it was nice to be able to hang around him a little bit and talk, have a conversation. But one of his biggest problems and why he's never made it to the next level is when he got under the lights for whatever reason, he just wasn't able to perform. I think he was a good amateur at one point. I remember hearing his name and, seeing his name in the books and the amateurs and all that back in the day. But he just never was able to hit the big time as a professional. But he was damn good sparring, some of the best sparring I've ever had. And it really prepared me. There's another little side note thing that happened in the camp is I got a visit by one of my favorites of all time. James Toney came into camp. And, he came with respect and he knew I was fighting Samuel Peter. And, even though he said some crazy stuff and Joe knows what he said in the past, it wasn't so nice. But he came in respectful. And he expected me to beat Sam, because of what I can do in my boxing ability and all. And because obviously he felt like he beat him at least one of those times. I know one of those times he did. I didn't think he won the second, but anyway, it was just good to see him. And he does it in the James Toney way of giving you respect, but it almost sounds like he's not. But I appreciate it, and he's, like I said, he's one of the greatest in my eyes of all time, and I just it was just a good thing to have him in camp. And of course my people knew that I respected James a lot and really liked his style, and and he's a funny guy too, so it was just good to get a visit from him too. But, aside from all those good things and those other things, I still had to fight a fight to prepare for. And, Javier gave me great work. You know what I mean? So, it was on to the fight. Now, there's another issue that came about with this whole thing. And, it's part of the game. You know what I mean? You got to deal with it. It's not something that is negotiable in a sense. I mean, media. You have to deal with the media because the media is going to tell your story. You just hope you get good media so they can tell the story that you want them to tell and not the story that they want to tell. But you get a lot of interviews and you got to do a lot of press. You got to do a lot of things when you got a big fight coming. And I remember the night before my fight, I had, was it like 6 or 7 interviews that I had to do that day. You know what I'm saying? And there was different times people were calling me at hours. It was just crazy. You know what I mean? I remember at one point I was literally on the phone, on and off for like maybe about 5 hours, just going one interview to the next, to the next, to the next. And it was, a good thing that it was the day before the fight, and I pretty much just did a little floor work and, shook out down in the gym in the complex. And I didn't have to go to the actual boxing gym and work out, And we had also used Joe Gooson's nice facility for the fight. And actually, I met another fighter that I met. It's the first time I've ever met him, and I don't even think he was pro yet at the time. Oh no, he was a pro. No, he was pro at the time, but I just met him, and it was John Molina Jr. And he was actually, I don't think he sparred my brother. No, he didn't spar my brother, but my brother, because my brother goes to all camps with me, so Steve was there, but he was sparring, and I see he was at that time. He was a little green, still a little green, but he was relentless, and he just worked hard and just kept working and kept working. No matter how green he was going to give you the best he had. But it was just it was nice meeting him. He was a good kid at the time, you know what I mean? And it was just a great camp altogether with Joe there and everything, and the fighters and everybody. But like I said, those interviews and all that stuff to keep you up and keep you sometimes can take your focus a little bit. But I knew I had a nightmare I had to deal with the next night. So it wasn't no games. And even though I had to do all those things, I made sure I was mentally is in the best mental state I possibly could be in, knowing the challenge I had to face the next day. And of course, there's one other little aspect that goes into these things. I mean, there's always rumblings in camps, and you get information from people who you may know that may be in another guy's camp, and or friends have heard this from another guy, and blah blah blah. And they were saying that Sam was overweight, and Sam was just trying to get his weight down, and was trying to do this and trying to do that, and he wasn't really doing that well in sparring. And a lot of this stuff is leaked out purposely to make you feel like, oh, it's going to be an easy night. And I don't care what they said. They could have said that Sam Peter lost his leg in camp. I'm going to still go in there nervous and think of an idea of think of a way that I'm going to have to deal with this guy even without a leg. He probably still could punch. You know what I mean? So that was my thought process. So there was nothing that anybody could have told me that was going to take my mind off of trying to figure out the best way to win this particular fight. So the fight comes, and of course, in the dressing room, sitting there like you're about to go out to fight for your life, you know what I mean? Which is in every case. Obviously, certain people have different attitudes toward the fights and all. But like I said, this was a huge fight for me. And I had been in some big fights, obviously up to that point. But this was probably the biggest one. Aside from the Povetkin fight, fighting a guy who was actually a world champion. So, and just thinking about what he brought to the table with his raw power and just his strength and his size and all of those things. And he wasn't a tall guy. He was my height, maybe. You know what I mean? But he was just as wide as a freak, like 2 or 3 doors. You know what I mean? So it was like, man, how could this guy even walk through a door without turning sideways? You know what I mean? But the closer you get to the ring, we talked about this, and the more you start to get in your mode, and I started to feel that. And then first of all, I go up onto the stage. Now the ring is on the stage, and I've been in a couple of times where the ring's on the stage. But I'm on the ring on the stage, and that's fine. You know what I mean? They got like a hall seating. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like you're watching a stage. It's like you're watching like I don't know, opera or something. that's how it was seated. Then they had seating up on the top too, like around the ring for the for the trainers and all the people who are going to be the officials for the fight as well. But I looked at the ring, and I'm looking at the ring, and I'm like, man, this ring looks kind of small. Joe, Kurt's gym in his house, right? His ring. See how small his ring was?
Yeah.
This ring that I fought Samuel Peter in was it was almost to the point where, man, I don't know how legal this thing was. It was that small. It was not as small as Kurt's, but it was definitely close to it. It had to be maybe a 16, if that. You know what I mean? Because I think it's illegal to go any smaller than that or something. I don't know, but but it definitely was the smallest they could have made it.
Just talking. Let me just interrupt and just talk about one particular time that stands out where you probably won't know this, Eddie, but Mike Tyson is set to fight Lennox Lewis. Don King obviously being the promoter, and Lennox Lewis gets a glimpse of the ring. I think maybe like a day or something, or I don't know, fight week, whatever. Gets a glimpse of the ring and says, "Whoa, this thing is tiny. It's the smallest ring I've ever seen." Obviously, the logic behind giving Mike Tyson a small ring, and Lennox Lewis complained to Don King and said, "This ring's too small." And Don said, "Well, this is the only ring we could get. It's too late now. We can't get another ring in here. This is it." Well, Lennox Lewis pulled some strings and managed to get a bigger ring delivered. And it was actually his ring that they fought in on the night. Obviously, Lennox Lewis would end up knocking Mike Tyson out, and that ring is somewhere in a storage facility that Lennox Lewis owns. To this day, he's kept the ring, which is just a cool ring story.
Yes, that's a very good ring story. Actually, I wish I could have done what Lennox did, but believe me, I did not have the kind of power nor the amount of money that it would have taken up to that point.
And by the way, happy birthday to Lennox Lewis. It's his birthday today. On a side note,
happy birthday, Lennox.
There we
Got to
go.
give it to him.
There we go. Sorry, Eddie.
But I didn't have his power, nor not physically, which I don't think I have his powers physically either. But I do have his skills and speed. But anyway, we're not going to go into that. But his power in negotiation, nor his power or his pockets either in this type of situation where he can do something like he did. So I didn't even know what kind of ring it was going to be until we actually walked up to the ring. I didn't even get a glimpse of it before we went into I think Steve told me about it or whatever, and I think he got in the ring and kind of told me and kind of warned me a little bit about it beforehand, if I'm not mistaken. But I see the ring and I'm like, damn, in my mind, this thing is tiny. And I'm like, well, that's fine. They think a small ring. I don't really run anyway, so it ain't no real big deal for me. But then I get in the ring, and it's a puncher's ring. Now, for those who don't know what a puncher's ring is, it's a ring with a really soft mat where your feet kind of sink into it, so you get real good grip and for a big punch. And what it also does is when you have a soft ring, it's harder to move. It takes more energy to move, because now you got to do twice the work, obviously, because your feet are sinking. So every time you move, it takes just a little bit of extra energy, maybe a lot. You know what I mean? Depending on the ring. So, and at that point now I'm getting a little irritated and feeling a little disrespected. I didn't say anything. You know what I mean? I just took it. And of course I had no choice after that point. And I'm sitting there. I'm a little nervous, but I'm starting to get a little pissed off about the whole thing. But still nervous, still thinking about the fight. But at that time, it's like, man, it's go time. You know what I mean? These guys trying to, and I'm looking at Dan and I'm looking at my people. I'm like, yo, y'all didn't even do anything. Like, y'all didn't even negotiate for, y'all didn't see any of this. Like, come on, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm not going to complain. I fought all of my other fights and never said a word and just took whoever it was, didn't even care who it was, whether it was going to be this guy, that guy. I didn't pick anybody. Trust me, I didn't pick anybody. So I said, what the hell? I'm in here. Let me make the best of this opportunity. And so I got in the first round, and I'm expecting, this is Sam Peter. When he puts his hands on me, I'm going to feel it. And I remember jabbing him a couple times, throwing a couple jabs out or whatever, just kind of feeling out, trying to see what's up. And I'm nervous, but I'm starting to, land jabs. And I was like, damn, is he going to move? He didn't move. He tried to move his head, I guess, as the fight went on, but damn, it was like just here, hit him. Just put my hand out and touch him in the face if I want. That's how I felt. That's how easy it felt. And I felt like I got really sharp because, like I said, working with Javier and pressure I was dealing with. And to be honest, he wasn't really pressuring me like I thought he would. But at first, I realized, and I also realized something. You know what I mean? I realized this before the fight, but I definitely realized it as it was going on, that if you circle him, even closely, he can't get any of his power off. And even if periodically, even if he does, every once in a while you're going to get a shot off. It's just the natural way the things are. And he may land it, he may not. But he's never going to really get any consistent offense, like a big shot followed by another big shot, by another big. You know what I mean? It's only going to be one because I'm not going to stand in one spot close enough for him to get a big shot off. And he's going to be eating these jabs all night long. And throughout the course of the fight, I honestly didn't, as round went on after round, I realized I really didn't need anything but my left hand. All I needed was my jab. Every once in a while, I threw a good right hand here or there. But it never really buzzed him to the point where, like, I think one of the first few kind of got his attention. But the rest of them, he just took. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to have you sitting on the end of these shots all night, and I'm going to win this thing easily. But I noted, and then also the advice I was getting in the corner was, move, get off of the line, move, because they were so worried about him catching me with a shot and getting me out of there, because this is what I honestly believe, with the exception of my brother and maybe one other person that might have been in there. I really think that they thought I could win, but they didn't know how much really. Like, they was like, they weren't sure. Because he's such a big puncher, man. Eddie gets hit on the chin, man. It might be over. He ain't going to be able to stand up under that. I don't know. I don't know. It was, you always worry. And I guess they were always worried. And I mean, and it wasn't just this fight. There was other fights that they, I'm not even going to talk about that now. We're going to get to that when the time comes. But they were just always kind of worried about whether I can deal with it. So I'm in the course of as the fight went on, I'm like, damn, he's just kind of easy, man. And I guess he can punch, but I haven't felt any of it. Like, he didn't land anything that made me say, ooh, damn, let me not stand here, or let me move, or let me not take another one of those before I'm out of here. He never did. And I remember him landing a good shot, and I just didn't really get a chance. I guess I turned him, or I guess he was in an awkward position, or I guess he didn't land it flush, or I turned my head, whatever I had to do. But I never felt the sandpeter power. I never did throughout the whole fight. So the way I was looking at it is, man, let me start being a little more aggressive in here and start walking him down. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I can do something with that. Like, I feel like I can get him, I can run him out of gas, because he started to run out of gas toward the end of the fight. And I was like, no, just keep going. And I'm sitting there like, come on, man, this dude, you know what I mean? No, just keep moving. You keep putting them hands on him. And they kept saying, Javier. So they're trying to, keep reminding me that I need to move and put my hands on him and get out of there and not let him get no shots off. But I did all that. And I remember at one point after the fight, he wanted me to say something happened to my hand and of my right hand, because I threw so many more jabs than right hands. And I was like, why? He's like, yeah, they're going to ask you why you didn't throw a lot of, and I'm like, does that matter? If I beat a guy with one hand, one punch, doesn't that say I'm better? You know what I'm saying? Doesn't that say I'm better? What if I used the rest of them? You know what I'm saying? What if I didn't need to use the rest of them? That's all I needed. You know what I'm saying? I could have beat Samuel Peter, as great as he was up to that point in his career, with one punch, one particular punch. And he just didn't have an answer for it. But I guess, the judges wouldn't have looked at the fight the same if I didn't throw some right hands and hooks and stuff in there too. And it's funny because what my corner was telling me and giving me the good advice, and even Teddy Atlas himself was saying I was doing the right thing and being responsible, but he also was so frustrated watching, talk about I could be doing so much more. But why? And this is what I say to Teddy, and this is what I say to all these guys. Why? Okay, so I go and get aggressive and try to, close the show, so to speak. Then I get caught with a big right hand, get knocked out cold, and I'm winning the fight, 9 rounds to nothing, and give him a shot in the 10th round and he knocks me out with it. Then what? Oh, you were stupid to go in there and try to fight when he – no, but you were saying, Teddy, that I should have thrown the right hand, put the left hook behind it, and start another combination. Ain't that what you were saying? Why would I do that? When you throw a hook after the right hand, yes, it brings you back on balance, but it also brings you back onto the line. And if you go back onto the line, there's a good chance that the guy, if he closes his eyes and swings a big shot, will catch you with it. So for all those people and trainers who teach those things, I'm not saying don't teach it. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but you have to understand why you're doing it and where it puts you. You understand what I'm saying? And I understood that. That's why there's certain things I didn't do in certain situations. And fighters of a high level know that, and they know where their level, where their ability extends to, and where it falls short of. And you got to be able to just understand. If I go in and I slug with this guy and throw big shots back at him without being defensively responsible, then I'm putting myself at risk of getting knocked out. After I'm winning this whole fight, I'm not doing that. I do want to be more aggressive. I do want to walk him down, but I want to do it in a smart enough way where I can win the fight without getting knocked out. You understand what I'm saying? And be aggressive and give myself opportunity. But anyway, I say all that to say, we get through the fight. I feel like I really felt confident that I won just about every round. Obviously, I think Sam probably snuck a few rounds, and I think he did. I don't think I won every round because, I let some of those rounds get close, and I talked about that before. Like, I'll be completely outclassing a person, but, sometimes you do that, give him a turn type thing, which you should never do, and, keep these guys into fights. So I think I gave him a few rounds, but the reality of it is there's no way he should have got a draw on any card. There's no way. Just like I shouldn't have got a straight 10-round sweep. He shouldn't have got a draw on any card. There's no way on earth he won half of those rounds. Not one. There's no chance. You know what I'm saying? He didn't throw enough punches, nor did he put himself in position enough to do that. But, hey, it's boxing. I guess, and they, that person who gave him the draw was one of their judges. And I guess our judge and the neutral judge saw the fight like it was supposed to be, kind of. So I ended up winning the decision. And, at that point, it's a great thing, but I was a little nervous because when I heard the card, I think I got a draw. I think it was a majority win. So I got the draw, and I'm, kind of worrying, like, here we go. You know what I'm saying? And then I don't really want to bring finances and those types of things and talk about, what happened and what the money was and all of that stuff. But this is an important thing. This is why I say you should always be involved and understand what's going on with the business aspect of your career. Because for fighting one fight removed from the heavyweight title, one of the greatest heavyweights up to that point in the world, I'm fighting him, and I end up walking away with $6,500. $6,500, not $65,000. $6,500. My gross purse was $20,000 for that fight. $20,000. I don't know what Sam Peter got, but I know I did not get much. You know what I mean? And it just goes, like I said, it just goes to show you that in this business, you should know what's going on all the time. But anyway, that's it for that. You know what I mean? It was a crazy experience dealing with that. You get involved and you're fighting a great fighter. It's a great test for you. But you deal with all the crap that goes along with the sport, and you get through it, you win, and you move on. And, I mean, that's all you can hope to do, but you got to make the correct decisions the next time out. And if that means that you got to make some moves, like there's a situation where I think there's been a few guys who had some managerial and promotional problems, and they literally sat out their career for a few years to get it fixed. Andre Ward being one of them, and Mikey Garcia being another that I know of for sure, that had issues with their team, and they needed to make adjustments to their career to feel comfortable moving forward. And I feel like I never made that adjustment, and that could have been a real reason why I really never got the title that I really wanted. You know what I'm saying? And it's just sad when I look back on it. I mean, it's not over. Maybe I'll get an opportunity down the line. It's unlikely, but you never know.
You never know, especially as Sergio Martinez is now ranked number 6 with a WBA after that comeback after 6 years. But
how about that?
Yeah, how about that? But yeah, you mentioned there that because I was going to ask you again. Obviously, 2 of the scorecards are real close. You got 96-94, Max DeLuca. Marty Denkin was the guy who gave it a draw, 95-95, and then 9 rounds to 1 for Ray Corona for you. So. But yeah, Marty Denkin with his strange scorecard passed away now. Passed away in 2018. He actually refereed he judged a fight in on the 3rd of November 2018, and he actually died on the 29th of November. So literally 3 weeks after his last judging performance, I guess.
So, yeah, you could say last fight. I guess last fight applies there too.
Yeah,
and that's crazy.
Later he passed away. But yeah, that literally wraps it up, Eddie. We've gone into great detail there. The next time we speak, obviously, it'll be the Dimitrenko win, which again ends in another majority decision, and then obviously after that we get on to the big one, Vladimir Klitschko. So yeah, Eddie, like I say, thanks once again for going into great depth about these fights here, telling stories that literally no one knows. I know that this is, this is a thing that we started in the thick of the lockdown. The lockdown kind of, the quarantine thing is thinning out now worldwide. Well, not everywhere, but in certain places. And
right, waters are receding a little bit, so it's getting a little bit back into the norm somewhat. It's not totally there, and we got a lot of work left to do. But
yeah, like I say, but no, I appreciate you doing this, and obviously, this is never before told stories here, and yeah, it's just an honor to be doing this with you. Obviously, it wouldn't be right to do this with anyone else, to be honest. So I appreciate all the details that you're spilling here and telling your life story, your boxing life story, at least.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing, man. I'm enjoying it. I mean, sometimes I get tired of hearing myself talk, but I still like to talk, anyway. But these are things that happen, man, and everything I'm saying happened. 1,000,000% happened. So, it's just I got to deal with the fact that it happened. And obviously, I mean, it's good for the listeners. A couple guys, maybe more than a couple guys, the guys that may be fighters. Looking into their career and start really paying attention to what they need to be paying attention to. Not just the boxing. Don't get me wrong; that's an important factor. You have to do that first, but you need to pay attention to the other stuff too.
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons in these episodes, and I just want to thank you once again, Eddie. Thanks for doing another Lockdown Knockdown segment with me this week. Hopefully we can return with another edition of this next week. That's the plan. But yeah, that wraps up all the talking pretty much. Like I said, we've done the review part, the preview part, the news part. Jessica McCaskill was absolutely fabulous earlier on. Eddie's just brought you another edition of his Lockdown Knockdown. That's all the talking. It's now time to wrap up the show. Okay, and this wraps up episode 255 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the reigning undisputed female welterweight world champion, the inspirational Jessica McCaskill. What a pleasure it was to speak with her. The biggest thanks of all, though, as always, goes out to you, the listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. That's about everything from me, though. Enjoy your weekend, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.